Captain Lee Dongwu stood in the shadows of the hidden command center, watching the enemy ships fill the sky above Earth. The Imperial fleet looked like angry metal giants floating in space. Their dark hulls blocked out the stars, and their weapon systems glowed with deadly red light. 200 warships had come to show the galaxy what happened to worlds that might think about fighting back. The Galactic Dominion Empire had ruled everything for 3,000 years. They had the biggest ships, the most soldiers, and weapons that could crack planets in half. Every world that tried to fight them got turned into space dust. Every rebellion got crushed before it could really begin. The Empire was strong, and they made sure everyone knew it. Earth was supposed to be different. When the Empire conquered their small blue world 20 years ago, they barely looked twice at it. The planet was far from the main space routes. Its people seemed simple. They grew food and dug metals from the ground. The Imperial reports called Earth a minor agricultural world and left only a small garrison to watch over it. That was exactly what Admiral Park So-min had wanted them to think. She walked up beside Captain Lee, her face hard as stone. "They brought the Third Fleet," she said quietly. "Admiral Vextar himself is commanding from the flagship." Lee nodded. He had been waiting for this day for 20 years. "How many ships total?" 212, Park replied, "including 4 super dreadnoughts and their new plasma cannon destroyers." On any other world, numbers like that would mean the end, but Earth was not any other world anymore. Deep in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, hidden shipyards had been working day and night for 2 decades. On the dark side of Earth's moon, training facilities had turned farmers and miners into the best pilots in the galaxy. In the cold depths of space beyond Pluto, something waited that would change everything. Engineer Kim Jae-ho turned from his control panel, sweat on his forehead. "The cloaking field is holding steady," he reported. "They still can't see the Taeguk, Earth's secret weapon. A supercarrier 3 kilometers long and armed with technology the Empire had never seen. Its fighter bays could launch 500 interceptors at once. Its shields could stop anything the enemy threw at it. Its weapons could tear apart Imperial dreadnoughts like paper, but it was still just 1 ship against 200. "Sir," called Lieutenant Choi Woo-jin from the communication station. "We're getting reports from our agents in the Imperial fleet. They're planning to start their demonstration in 6 hours." Lee looked at the tactical display showing Earth's surface. Small red dots marked the targets the Empire planned to destroy: empty mining stations, abandoned factories, old defensive platforms that had been shut down years ago. At least that's what the Empire thought they were. Commander Bae Sung-ho had done his job well. For months, he had been feeding false information to Imperial sensors. Every scan showed exactly what the Empire expected to see: primitive technology, weak defenses, a beaten world that had accepted its fate. The truth was hidden deep underground and in the darkness of space. In a secret base beneath the Rocky Mountains, Pilot Commander Yoon Da-hee was giving her final briefing to the fighter squadrons. "Remember, you're training," she told the pilots gathered around her. "We've run this mission 1,000 times in simulation. We know their ships better than they do. We know their weaknesses." The pilots nodded. They came from every nation on Earth, but they all shared the same dream: freedom for their world, freedom for the galaxy. Dr. Han Mi-young worked frantically at her station in the hidden lunar facility. The cloaking technology keeping the Taeguk invisible was her design. It bent light and sensor waves around the massive ship, making it seem like empty space. But maintaining the field took enormous power, and they couldn't keep it running forever. "How much longer can we stay hidden?" Admiral Park asked through the communication link. "Maybe 8 hours at most," Dr. Han replied. "After that, we'll have to drop the cloak or risk system failure. It would have to be enough." Above Earth, Admiral Vex's Tar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the eternal conquest. He was a tall alien with gray skin and 4 arms, each one decorated with medals, showing his victories. Behind him, the bridge crew worked at their stations, preparing for what they thought would be an easy demonstration of Imperial power. "Status report," Vextar commanded in his deep voice. "All ships in position," his tactical officer replied. "Planetary scans confirm minimal resistance. 12 ancient patrol boats in orbit. No significant ground defenses. The humans appear to have accepted their situation." Vextar smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Good. Begin charging the demonstration weapons. I want every world in this sector to see what happens when the Empire visits." But far below on Earth's surface, people were not sitting quietly. In hidden bunkers, resistance cells received their final orders. In secret factories, the last weapons rolled off production lines. In underground command centers, officers who had pretended to be farmers and shopkeepers for 20 years put on their real uniforms. Fleet Admiral Quan Hyun-soo had been Earth's military leader in secret all this time. To the Empire, he was just an old man who ran a small farm. In reality, he had been planning this moment since the day Earth fell. "All stations report ready," he announced to the hidden fleet scattered throughout the solar system. "Operation Liberation begins in 5 hours. Wing Commander Nam Ji-ho felt his heart racing as he climbed into his fighter. The ship looked like nothing special from the outside, but inside it was packed with technology that made Imperial fighters look ancient. Quantum engines that could make impossible turns. Weapons that fired faster than the enemy could see. Shields that adapted to any attack. Around him, 499 other pilots were doing the same thing. They had trained for this moment their entire adult lives. Some had been children when Earth fell. Now, they were the best fighter. Pilots in the galaxy, and the Empire had no idea they existed. Tactical Officer Lim Ye-jin monitored the Imperial fleet from her hidden station. "They're moving into standard demonstration formation," she reported, spreading out to cover all major population centers. It was exactly what Earth's planners had hoped for. The Imperial ships were positioning themselves perfectly for what was about to happen. Captain Lee looked around the command center one final time. Every person here had given up everything for this moment. They had lived in secret, worked in shadows, and pretended to be something they were not. All so that one day, Earth could strike back. "Begin final preparations," he ordered. "Signal the Taeyaguk. Tell Captain Go Yunbi to bring her ships to ready status, and send word to our allies on the outer worlds. Tonight, the galaxy changes forever." In space, the massive Imperial fleet continued its slow movement into position. Admiral Vextar reviewed his target list one more time. Empty buildings, abandoned structures, nothing that would really hurt the humans, but enough to show them who was in charge. He had no idea that those empty buildings were carefully prepared decoys. He didn't know about the weapons hidden in Earth's asteroids. He couldn't see the massive Supercarrier waiting in the darkness beyond Pluto. The Empire was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemies were the ones you never saw coming. The storm was gathering, and Earth was ready to show the galaxy what humans could do when they had time to prepare. The Imperial scanner beams swept across Earth like searchlights, looking for any sign of hidden weapons or secret bases. Admiral Vextar watched the results appear on his command screen, and everything looked exactly as expected. Small farming, towns dotted the continents. Mining operations dug simple metals from the mountains. A few cities housed the human population, but nothing that looked dangerous. "Sir, we've completed the deep scan," reported his intelligence officer. "No hidden installations detected. No advanced technology signatures. Their defensive fleet consists of exactly 12 patrol boats, all at least 50 years old." Vextar nodded with satisfaction. The humans had learned their lesson well. "What about their military leadership?" "Scattered and broken, sir. Most of their former officers work as farmers or factory workers now. We've identified their current planetary administrator as someone named Fleet Admiral Quan Hyun Soo, but he appears to be nothing more than an agricultural coordinator. If Admiral Vextar could have seen Fleet Admiral Quan Hyun Soo at that moment, he might have thought differently. The man was standing in a command center buried 3 kilometers, underground, watching displays that showed every Imperial ship in perfect detail. His farming coordinator job was the perfect cover for someone who needed to travel all over the planet without raising suspicion. "Status report from all stations," Quan ordered. Commander Bae Sung-ho looked up from his intelligence station. "The fake sensor readings are working perfectly. Every scan they run shows exactly what we want them to see. As far as they know, our strongest weapons are hunting rifles." Dr. Han Mi-young wiped sweat from her forehead as she monitored the cloaking systems. "The Taeguk is still completely invisible, but the power drain is getting critical. We can hold the cloak for maybe 6 more hours." Lieutenant Choi Woo-jin turned from his communications panel. "Sir, I'm picking up Imperial communications. They're planning to begin their demonstration in 4 hours. Target list includes the old Denver mining platform, the abandoned Chicago Defense Station, and the empty shipyards at Houston." Perfect targets, Quan thought. All of them were empty shells that looked important but contained nothing valuable. The real mining operations were hidden in the asteroid belt. The actual defense stations were cloaked and waiting. And the true shipyards were scattered across a dozen different locations, each one invisible to Imperial scanners. Far above Earth's surface, the 12 ancient patrol boats moved slowly through their orbits. Their crews were young men and women who had volunteered for the most dangerous job in the Resistance. If shooting started, they would be the first to die. But they also served another purpose that the Empire could never guess. Each patrol boat contained advanced quantum computers that were carefully analyzing every Imperial ship: range, speed, weapon signatures, shield frequencies, crew numbers, information that would be vital when the real fighting began. Captain Park Jin-woo commanded one of those patrol boats. To the Empire, he was just another human trying to maintain what little defense his world had left. In reality, he was a former Earth Defense Force officer who had spent 20 years studying Imperial tactics. "All boats, this is command," came the coded message through his earpiece. "Begin final reconnaissance sweep." Park activated his ship's hidden sensors. They were disguised to look like standard navigation equipment, but they could map every weapon on the Imperial flagship. "Copy, command. Beginning sweep now." On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, Admiral Vextar's tactical officer noticed the patrol boats changing course slightly. "Sir, the human patrol vessels are adjusting their positions." "Probably trying to stay out of our way," Vextar replied without interest. Wise of them. But the patrol boats weren't trying to stay out of the way. They were moving into perfect position to relay targeting data to the hidden weapons platforms scattered throughout the solar system. Deep in the Oort cloud, beyond the orbit of Pluto, something massive waited in the darkness. The Taeguk was 3 kilometers of advanced technology wrapped in stealth fields that made it invisible to any scanner the Empire possessed. Its fighter bays could launch 500 interceptors, its weapon systems could tear apart entire fleets, and its captain was ready to change the course of galactic history. Captain Lee Dong-woo stood on the bridge of the Supercarrier, watching his crew make final preparations. Every person here had trained for this moment. They knew their jobs perfectly, and they knew what was at stake. "Status report," Lee ordered. "All fighter squadrons ready for launch," reported his flight operations officer. "Pilots are in their ships and waiting for the signal." "Weapon systems charged and standing by," called his tactical officer. "Quantum disruptors are online and locked onto priority targets." "Shields at maximum power," added his defense coordinator. "We're ready for anything they can throw at us." Lee nodded. In 4 hours, the Empire would begin their demonstration. In 4 hours and 5 minutes, they would learn that Earth was not as helpless as they thought. But there was more to Earth's plan than just one supercarrier. Throughout the solar system, other ships waited in hiding. The Mugunghwa, a smaller carrier commanded by Captain Go Yunbi, held position behind Jupiter's largest moon. 3 squadrons of destroyers were scattered among the asteroids. Even more fighters were hidden in bases on Mars and the outer moons. The Empire thought they were facing 12 old patrol boats. They were actually about to fight the most advanced fleet humanity had ever built. In the secret lunar base, Dr. Han Mi-young made one final check of her systems. The cloaking technology was her greatest achievement, but it was based on something even more impressive. 20 years ago, when Earth surrendered, they had secretly captured several Imperial ships that had been damaged in the fighting. Those ships had been taken apart piece by piece, their technology studied and improved. The Empire's own weapons had been turned against them, made better by human engineering and human determination. Engineer Kim Jae-ho worked at his station, monitoring power levels across the hidden fleet. "All ships reporting ready," he announced. "Power systems at full capacity. We're as ready as we'll ever be." In the Imperial fleet, Admiral Vextar reviewed his demonstration plan one more time. "We'll begin with the mining platform," he decided. "A clean destruction that will be visible from the planet's surface. Then the defense station, followed by the shipyards. The whole demonstration should take about 2 hours. His weapons officer nodded. "Yes, sir. All guns are charged and ready." The plasma cannons will make quite a show. They had no idea that every word they spoke was being recorded by hidden sensors. Earth's intelligence network had spent 20 years learning Imperial languages, studying their tactics, and preparing for this exact moment. Pilot Commander Yoon Dahi sat in the cockpit of her fighter deep inside the Taeguk's launch bay. Around her, 499 other pilots waited for the signal. They came from every nation on Earth, united by their desire to free their world. Her fighter looked simple from the outside, but it contained technology that would amaze even Imperial engineers. Quantum engines that could make impossible turns in space. Energy shields that could adapt to any weapon, and plasma cannons that fired faster and hit harder than anything in the Imperial arsenal. "All pilots, this is command," came the voice through her headset. "Final briefing in 30 minutes. Remember, we only get one chance at this." Yoon checked her weapons one more time. She had been training for this moment since she was 18 years old. Now, at 38, she was ready to show the galaxy what human pilots could do. Colonel Shin Tae-wook monitored ground-based operations from his hidden command center beneath Seoul. If the space battle went badly, Earth's ground forces would have to hold out until help could arrive, but he was more confident than ever that wouldn't be necessary. "All defense positions report ready," he told Fleet Admiral Kwon. "But I don't think we'll need them." Intelligence Chief Ro Hyun-ju was coordinating communications with resistance cells on other worlds. "Sir, we're receiving confirmation signals from 17 different systems. They're all ready to declare independence the moment our operation begins." Kwon smiled. Earth wouldn't be fighting alone. Across the galaxy, other worlds had been secretly preparing for this moment. When the Taeguk revealed itself, it would be the signal for the largest rebellion in Imperial history. Admiral Vextar stood on his bridge, completely unaware of what was about to happen. He saw a helpless world with weak defenses and a broken military. He expected an easy demonstration that would keep other worlds in line. Instead, he was about to face technology he couldn't understand, tactics he had never seen, and opponents who had spent 20 years preparing for this exact moment. The Empire's ships moved into their final positions. The countdown began, and in the darkness beyond Pluto, the Taeguk prepared to change everything. Admiral Vextar raised his forearms in a gesture of command. "Begin the demonstration," he ordered. "Target the Denver mining platform first. Full power." The massive guns of the Eternal Conquest turned toward Earth's surface. Energy built up in the weapon systems, creating a bright glow that could be seen across the Imperial fleet. This was how the Empire always worked. Show overwhelming force, make examples, keep everyone afraid. On Earth, people in the secret command centers watched the enemy ships prepare to fire. Everything was going exactly as planned. The Empire was about to destroy empty buildings and abandoned structures, thinking they were teaching Earth a lesson. They had no idea what lesson they were about to learn themselves. "Firing!" announced the Imperial weapons officer. Brilliant beams of energy shot down from space, striking the mining platform in the Colorado mountains. The structure exploded in flames and smoke, visible for hundreds of kilometers. To anyone watching, it looked like the Empire had just destroyed an important facility, but the platform had been empty for months. Every piece of valuable equipment had been secretly moved to hidden locations. The Empire had just wasted their firepower on an empty shell. "Excellent," Admiral Vextar said with satisfaction. "Now target the Chicago Defense Station." More energy beams lanced down from space. Another explosion lit up the sky. Another victory for the Empire that meant absolutely nothing. Captain Lee Dong-woo watched the destruction from his position in the far reaches of the solar system. "That's our signal," he said quietly. "Begin Operation Liberation." Deep in the Teguk's engine room, massive quantum reactors came to full power. Energy flowed through systems that the Empire's best scientists couldn't even imagine. The Supercarrier's cloaking field began to fade as power was redirected to weapons and shields. "Cloak dropping in 30 seconds, reported Dr. Han Mi-young from her station. "All fighters ready for launch," called Pilot Commander Yoon Da-hee from the flight deck. "Weapons systems armed and locked on target," announced Tactical Officer Lim Ye-jin. Admiral Vex-Tar was preparing to destroy the third target when his sensor officer suddenly looked up in alarm. "Sir, I'm detecting a massive energy signature. Something is decloaking directly behind our formation." "What?" Vex-Tar spun around to look at the tactical display. "That's impossible. Our sensors would have detected any ship that large. But the impossible was happening right in front of him. Space itself seemed to shimmer and bend, like looking through water. Then reality tore apart, and the largest warship any of them had ever seen appeared in the center of the Imperial fleet. Teguk was 3 kilometers of gleaming metal and advanced technology. Its hull was covered with weapon systems that glowed with deadly energy. Fighter launch bays opened along its sides like the mouths of hungry beasts, and its shields created a shimmering barrier that made the ship look like it was made of liquid starlight. "By all the void demons," whispered Admiral Vex-Tar. "What is that thing?" His tactical officer was frantically trying to analyze the readings. I don't know, sir. It's not in any of our databases. The technology signatures are completely unknown." But Captain Lee Dong-woo knew exactly what it was. It was 20 years of human determination made real. It was the best technology from a dozen different alien races, captured and improved by human engineers. It was hope for every world that had ever dreamed of freedom. "This is Captain Lee Dong-woo of the Earth Defense Force," he announced on all frequencies. "Imperial Fleet, you are in violation of Earth's sovereign space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Vex-Tar couldn't believe what he was hearing. A human ship, threatening the Imperial Third Fleet? He opened his own communication channel. "Unknown vessel, you are in violation of Imperial law. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Lee's response was to open fire. The Teguk's main guns were quantum disruptors, weapons that broke apart matter at the molecular level. They didn't just destroy enemy ships, they made them cease to exist. 12 Imperial dreadnoughts simply vanished in flashes of brilliant light, leaving nothing behind but empty space. The Imperial fleet erupted in panic. Ships scattered in all directions, their crews unable to understand what they had just witnessed. Weapons that could make entire dreadnoughts disappear were beyond anything in their experience. "All ships, return fire!" Admiral Vex-Tar screamed. "Destroy that vessel!" Hundreds of energy beams and plasma cannons fired at the Taiguk from every direction. The amount of firepower directed at the human supercarrier was enough to crack a small moon. But the ship's adaptive shields absorbed every shot, growing brighter and stronger with each impact. "Shields holding at full strength," reported the defense coordinator. "Enemy weapons are actually charging our defensive systems." That was another piece of stolen Imperial technology that humans had improved. Instead of just blocking enemy fire, Earth's shields could absorb the energy and use it to power other systems. "Launch all fighters," Captain Lee ordered. The Taiguk's launch bays opened, and 500 human interceptors poured out like angry wasps. Each fighter was piloted by someone who had trained their entire adult life for this moment. They moved through space in perfect formation, their quantum engines making turns that should have been impossible. Wing Commander Nam Ji-ho led the first attack squadron directly at the Imperial flagship. His fighters' weapon systems locked onto the Eternal Conquest's shield generators. "First Squadron, target their defensive systems. Let's show them what Earth pilots can do." The human fighters danced through the Imperial formation like deadly butterflies. Their quantum engines let them make impossible turns and sudden stops that left enemy gunners shooting at empty space. Their advanced targeting systems never missed, and their weapons hit harder than anything the Empire had seen before. Admiral Vextar watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart by forces he couldn't understand. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "These are humans. They're supposed to be primitive." His intelligence officer was staring at his scanner readings in disbelief. "Sir, I'm detecting more energy signatures throughout the system. There are ships hidden everywhere. Behind asteroids, in the gas giant's rings, even on the surface of Mars. One by one, Earth's hidden fleet revealed itself. The Mugungwa dropped its cloak behind Jupiter's moon, launching another 200 fighters. Destroyers emerged from asteroid hiding places, their weapons already charged and ready. Defense platforms scattered throughout the solar system powered up their massive guns. Captain Go Eunbi smiled as her ship joined the battle. "This is the Mugunghwa to all Earth forces. Let's finish what we started 20 years ago." The Empire had brought 200 ships to intimidate one small world. Instead, they found themselves facing a fleet of 300 human vessels, each one equipped with technology that made their own ships look ancient. Fleet Admiral Kwan Hyun-soo watched the battle from his underground command center, a smile on his weathered face. "Signal all stations. Operation Liberation is a complete success. Begin Phase 2. Phase 2 meant revealing Earth's biggest secret of all. Hidden throughout the solar system were weapons platforms that made the Taiguk look small. They had been built in the deepest secrecy, disguised as mining stations and research facilities. Now they showed their true purpose. Massive energy cannons emerged from what had looked like simple asteroids. Defensive networks activated around Earth's major cities. And most shocking of all, the moon itself began to change. The lunar surface split open, revealing weapon systems that had been built inside the moon's core. Humanity had turned their entire satellite into a fortress, and the Empire had never suspected a thing. Pilot Commander Yoon Da-hee led her squadron in a perfect attack run on an Imperial super dreadnought. "Target their reactor core," she called to her wingmates. "Let's send them a message they'll never forget." Her fighters struck like lightning, their quantum torpedoes penetrating shields that were supposed to be impenetrable. The enemy ship exploded in a chain reaction that lit up the night sky on Earth's surface. Admiral Vextar realized his fleet was not just losing, it was being completely destroyed by opponents who were supposed to be helpless farmers. All ships, "Retreat! Jump to hyperspace immediately!" But Earth had prepared for that too. Gravity generators hidden throughout the solar system activated, creating artificial wells that trapped enemy ships like flies in amber. The Imperial fleet couldn't retreat because space itself was holding them in place. "This is impossible," Vextar whispered as his flagship shuddered under human fire. "No world has ever resisted the Empire like this." Captain Lee opened communication channels to the entire galaxy. His message would travel faster than light to every inhabited system, carried by quantum transmitters that Earth had been secretly building for 2 decades. "People of the galaxy," he said, his voice carrying to 1 trillion listeners. "This is Earth. We are no longer subjects of the Empire. We are free beings fighting for our right to exist. Any world that wishes to join us in this fight will find allies ready to stand with them." Across the galaxy, beings who had lived under Imperial rule their entire lives heard those words and felt something they had almost forgotten: hope. The battle had been raging for 6 hours, and Admiral Vextar's once mighty Third Fleet was being torn apart. Half of his ships were gone, destroyed by weapons he didn't understand or damaged beyond repair. The rest were trapped by gravity fields that made escape impossible. "Sir," his communications officer called out desperately, "we're receiving a priority signal from Imperial Command. The 7th Fleet is jumping in to assist us." Vextar felt a surge of hope. The 7th Fleet was the Empire's newest force, equipped with the latest super dreadnoughts and experimental weapons. If anyone could turn this impossible battle around, it would be them. "How long until they arrive?" he demanded. 60 seconds, sir." Space twisted and bent as massive Imperial ships dropped out of hyperspace. The 7th Fleet was impressive. 90 vessels led by the super dreadnought Galactic Dominion, each one larger and more powerful than anything in the 3rd Fleet. Admiral Kesavara commanded the 7th Fleet from her flagship's bridge. She was a veteran of 100 battles, and she had never seen the Empire lose a single one. But as she looked at the tactical display showing the battle around Earth, she could barely believe what her sensors were telling her. "Report," she ordered, her tactical officer. "Admiral, the 3rd Fleet has lost over half its ships. They're being engaged by unknown human vessels using technology we've never encountered before. The largest enemy ship appears to be some kind of supercarrier." Kesavara studied the readings. The human supercarrier was 3 kilometers long and showing energy signatures that surpassed even her own flagship. Around it, hundreds of smaller ships moved in perfect coordination, their tactics unlike anything in Imperial databases. "How is this possible?" she wondered aloud. Intelligence reported that Earth was a primitive agricultural world, but there was no time to figure out how the humans had become so powerful. Her job was to save what remained of the 3rd Fleet and destroy these upstart rebels. "All ships, attack formation," she commanded. "Target the large supercarrier first. Maximum firepower." The 7th Fleet opened fire with everything they had: energy beams, plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. All of it focused on the Tagak. Captain Lee watched the enemy fire approach on his tactical display. "All shields to maximum. Prepare for impact." The Imperial attack struck the Tagak's barriers like a tsunami of pure energy. The ship's adaptive shields flared brilliant white, absorbing the massive assault and converting it into power for Earth's own systems. "Shields holding," reported the defense coordinator. "Actually, we're running at 120%. Power now. They're charging our systems for us." That was the beauty of human engineering. The Empire's own weapons were making Earth's ships stronger. "Return fire," Captain Lee ordered. "Show them what real firepower looks like." The Tagak's quantum disruptors spoke again, and 3 Imperial super dreadnoughts simply ceased to exist. But this time, Earth's captain had an even bigger surprise ready. "Activate the gravity cannon," he commanded. Deep in the supercarriers, hull systems that had taken 10 years to develop came online. The gravity cannon didn't fire energy or projectiles. Instead, it created artificial gravity wells anywhere in space, trapping enemy ships and crushing them with forces that could bend reality itself. 6. Imperial vessels suddenly found themselves caught in gravitational fields 1,000 times stronger than normal. Their hulls crumpled like paper as they were compressed into balls of twisted metal. Admiral Kesavara stared at her tactical display in shock. What kind of weapon was that? Unknown, sir, her science officer replied. It appears to manipulate gravitational forces directly. We have nothing like it in our arsenal. But Earth wasn't finished. Throughout the solar system, more hidden weapons revealed themselves. The moon opened up to show massive rail guns that fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Mars turned out to be hollow, filled with manufacturing facilities that were now launching fresh fighters to join the battle. Even the asteroids were armed. What had looked like simple mining operations were actually weapon platforms, each one capable of destroying Imperial cruisers with single shots. Captain Go Yunbi brought the Mugunghwa alongside the Taeguk, her ship's fighters joining the massive battle. Lee, we're detecting more Imperial ships jumping in from the outer rim. This is turning into the biggest space battle in galactic history. She was right. Word of the Earth Rebellion was spreading faster than light across the galaxy, and the Empire was sending everything they had to crush it, but other worlds were responding too. Ships from 17 different systems were jumping toward Earth, each one carrying rebels ready to fight for freedom. Colonel Shin Tae-wook monitored ground operations from his bunker beneath Seoul. Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from the Imperial garrison troops on the surface. They want to lay down their weapons. Fleet Admiral Kwan smiled grimly. Accept their surrender, but keep them under guard. This battle is far from over. Intelligence Chief Ro Hyun-ju was coordinating with resistance movements across the galaxy. Admiral, I'm getting reports from everywhere. The Centauri system has declared independence. The Vega colonies are in open revolt. Even some of the core worlds are seeing uprisings. Earth's message of freedom was spreading like wildfire. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Empire was facing rebellion on multiple fronts. Admiral Kesavara tried desperately to regain control of the battle. All ships concentrate fire on their fighters. If we can destroy their small craft, we can still win this. It was a reasonable tactic against any normal enemy, but human pilots had been training for this moment their entire lives. They knew Imperial tactics better than Imperial commanders did. Wing Commander Nam Ji-ho led his squadron in a perfect defensive formation. All fighters, Pattern 7, let's show them how Earth's children dance in space. The human interceptors moved like a school of fish, each pilot knowing exactly where the others would be without needing to communicate. Imperial gunners found themselves shooting at empty space while human fighters struck from impossible angles. Pilot Commander Yoon Da-hee had her own surprise for the Empire. Her squadron had been equipped with experimental cloaking devices, miniaturized versions of the technology that had hidden the Taeguk. Ghost Squadron, activate stealth systems, she ordered. Time for a magic trick. 24 human fighters vanished from Imperial sensors, becoming invisible ghosts that struck without warning. They appeared inside the enemy formation, destroyed their targets, and vanished again before anyone could react. Dr. Han Mi-young had been working frantically in her lunar laboratory, preparing Earth's ultimate surprise. Admiral Kwan, the quantum resonance weapon is ready for testing. The quantum resonance weapon was humanity's most ambitious project. Instead of destroying individual ships, it could disrupt the quantum fields that held matter together across vast areas of space. Used properly, it could disable entire fleets without destroying them. Are you sure it will work? Kwan asked. There's only one way to find out, sir. Engineer Kim Jae-ho monitored power levels as the weapon charged. It required more energy than Earth had ever generated before, drawing power from fusion reactors, solar collectors, and even the planet's own magnetic field. Weapon charged and ready, he reported, targeting the center of the Imperial formation. Admiral Kesavara had no idea what was about to hit her. She was still trying to coordinate her fleet's attacks when space itself began to change around them. A pulse of invisible energy swept through the Imperial formation. It didn't destroy their ships, but it did something far more frightening. Every electronic system in the enemy fleet simply stopped working. Lights went out. Weapons shut down. Life support systems failed. Artificial gravity disappeared. In seconds, the most advanced warships in the galaxy became floating metal coffins. "What happened?" Kesavara demanded, but her voice echoed in a dead bridge. Her ship's power systems were completely offline. Throughout the Imperial fleet, the same scene was repeated. Thousands of highly trained soldiers found themselves trapped in ships that no longer responded to any commands. Captain Lee opened communication, channels that could reach the powerless Imperial vessels. "Imperial Fleet, this is Earth Defense Command. Your ships have been disabled but not destroyed. We offer you the chance to surrender with honor." Some Imperial commanders were too proud to give up, but others, seeing their fleets helpless and their cause hopeless, made the practical choice. "This is Admiral Kesavara of the 7th Fleet," came a weak transmission powered by emergency batteries. We request terms for surrender." Fleet Admiral Kwan took the communication personally. "Admiral Kesavara, you and your crews will be treated according to the laws of war. But you must understand that the Empire's rule over Earth is finished." As Imperial ships began powering down their weapons and surrendering, Earth's quantum transmitters sent another message to the galaxy. This time, the news was simple but earth-shaking. The Empire's 3rd and 7th fleets had been defeated by a single world. The rebellion that had started on one small blue planet was about to spread to every corner of the galaxy. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Earth, and the galaxy was a completely different place. News of humanity's victory had spread to every inhabited world, inspiring rebellions from the core systems to the outer rim. 17 worlds had declared independence in the first week alone. Now 43 systems flew the banner of the new Galactic Freedom Alliance. President Co. Min Ho stood before the assembled delegates in what had once been the Imperial Administration Building in Geneva. Representatives from dozens of different species filled the hall, all united by their desire for freedom from imperial rule. "3 months ago, we were subjects," President Seo said, his voice carrying to billions of listeners across the galaxy. "Today, we are free beings charting our own destiny. The Empire ruled through fear for 3,000 years. We will build something better." Admiral Park So-min commanded the growing fleet of liberated worlds from her flagship, the Taeguk. The massive supercarrier now led a force of over 600 vessels, each one crewed by beings who had never dared dream of fighting the Empire. But the Empire was not finished. Their response had been swift and brutal. Emperor Drakthul himself had assembled the core fleet, 2,000 of the Empire's most powerful ships, including their mobile fortress Dominator. It was the largest military force in galactic history, and it was heading straight for Earth. Intelligence Chief Ro Hyun-ju studied the tactical reports with growing concern. "The core fleet will arrive at the Nexus Gate in 72 hours, she informed the War Council. "If they control the gate, they can cut off faster than light travel to half the galaxy." The Nexus Gate was the most important strategic location in known space. It was an ancient alien construct that created stable wormholes, allowing ships to travel instantly between distant star systems. Control of the gate meant control of galactic commerce and communication. Fleet Admiral Kwan looked at the assembled commanders around the holographic display. "Then we stop them there. The core fleet has never been defeated, but neither had the 3rd and 7th fleets before we met them." Captain Lee Dongwu nodded grimly. "The Taeguk and her task force are ready, but 2,000 Imperial ships. Even with our technological advantages, the numbers are daunting." That was when Director Kang Hae-won, Earth's chief diplomat, smiled. "Admiral, you're thinking like the Empire. You're only counting ships. But we've been building something much more powerful than ships." She activated another holographic display, showing alliance forces throughout the galaxy. 43 worlds have declared independence. Each one has been secretly building ships using human technology. The Centauri yards alone have produced 200 destroyers. The Vega colonies have a full carrier group ready for battle. Captain Go Yunbi leaned forward in excitement. You mean we're not fighting alone? Not just alone, Director Kang replied. Every free world is sending their best ships and crews to the Nexus Gate. The Empire thinks they're facing Earth. Instead, they'll be fighting the combined forces of the Galactic Freedom Alliance. The next 72 hours were a frenzy of preparation. Ships jumped through hyperspace from across the galaxy, converging on the Nexus Gate. Human technology had been shared freely with the Alliance, creating a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Park watched the Allied forces assemble on her tactical display. Status report from all task forces. Wing Commander Nam Ji-ho spoke from his position aboard the carrier New Seoul. All fighter squadrons ready for deployment. We now have over 3,000 interceptors from 18 different species. Engineer Kim Jae-ho monitored the quantum resonance weapons that had been built into the Nexus Gate itself. The gate fortifications are complete. We can disable their entire fleet if they get too close. Colonel Shin Tae-wook commanded the Alliance. Ground forces that would defend the gate's control stations. All planetary defenses online. If they try to board the gate, they'll find us waiting. But the real surprise was what Dr. Han Mi-young had discovered in the ancient alien technology of the Nexus Gate itself. Admiral, I've been studying the gate's systems. It's not just a transportation device. It's also the most powerful weapon ever built. She explained her findings to the War Council. The Nexus Gate could do more than create wormholes. It could manipulate space and time on a massive scale, creating effects that would make Earth's gravity cannon look like a toy. The original builders designed it as a last resort, Dr. Han continued. If activated at full power, it can create artificial black holes anywhere in the surrounding space. But the energy requirements are enormous. Fleet Admiral Kwan studied the technical specifications. How enormous? We'd need to feed it the power output of an entire star. Captain Lee smiled. Good thing we brought one with us. He was referring to Earth's mobile fusion reactors, massive machines that could harvest energy directly from stellar cores. They had been built in secret over the past 20 years, disguised as solar research stations. The Empire arrived exactly on schedule. Emperor Drakthul's core fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their 2,000 ships blocking out the stars. The mobile Fortress Dominator was at their center, a space station the size of a small moon bristling with weapons. Emperor. Drakthul stood on the command deck of his fortress, his scaled form radiating confidence. He was the supreme ruler of a galactic empire, and he had never lost a battle. Destroy the gate, he commanded. Show these rebels what happens to those who defy the Empire. But as the Imperial fleet moved forward, they encountered something they hadn't expected. Instead of a small force of human ships, they faced an alliance fleet of nearly 800 vessels, representing dozens of different worlds. Impossible, the Emperor hissed. Intelligence said the rebellion was limited to a few outer worlds. His tactical officer was studying the sensor readings with growing alarm. Sir, I'm detecting ships from the Centauri Federation, the Vega Collective, even some of our former core world allies. It appears the entire galaxy is in revolt. Admiral Park opened communication channels to address both fleets. Imperial forces, this is the Galactic Freedom Alliance. You are trespassing in free space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Emperor Drakthul's response was to order a full attack. All ships, maximum firepower, crush these upstarts, and reclaim our empire. The battle that followed was the largest in galactic history. 2,000 Imperial ships against 800 Alliance vessels fought in the shadow of the ancient Nexus Gate. But numbers weren't everything. The Alliance ships used human technology and tactics, while the Imperial fleet relied on the same strategies they had used for millennia. Pilot Commander Yoon Da-hee led her squadron in the opening attack. All fighters, remember your training. We've faced these odds before and won. Today we free the galaxy." The Alliance fighters moved like a coordinated swarm, their quantum engines allowing maneuvers that Imperial pilots couldn't match. They struck at the Empire's larger ships while staying too fast to hit. Captain Go Yunbi brought the Mugung Hua directly into the enemy formation. "This is for every world you conquered," she declared as her ship's weapons tore through Imperial shields. The battle raged for hours, but slowly the tide began to turn. Alliance technology was superior, and their crews were fighting for freedom while the Imperial forces were fighting to maintain oppression. Emperor Drakthul realized his fleet was losing and made a desperate decision. "All ships withdraw to the fortress. We'll make our final stand from the Dominator." The mobile fortress was indeed impressive, kilometers of armor and weapons that could destroy fleets. But Dr. Han Mi-young had been waiting for this moment. "Admiral, the Emperor's fortress is in perfect position. The Nexus Gate weapon is ready to fire." Fleet Admiral Quan gave the order that would change galactic history. "Activate the gate weapon. End this war." Energy flowed from the Alliance fusion reactors into the ancient alien systems of the Nexus Gate. Space itself began to warp and twist around the Imperial fortress. Gravity waves rippled outward, and artificial black holes formed around the Dominator, Emperor. Drakthul felt his mighty fortress being torn apart by forces he couldn't understand. "This is impossible!" he screamed as his command deck buckled and twisted. "The Empire cannot fall!" But the Empire was falling. The Dominator was pulled apart by artificial gravity, its fragments scattered across space. The remaining Imperial ships surrendered rather than face the same fate. Captain Lee opened communication channels to the entire galaxy. "People of all worlds, this is the Galactic Freedom Alliance. The Empire is defeated. The age of tyranny is over. Welcome to the Age of Freedom." Across the galaxy, beings who had lived under Imperial rule their entire lives felt chains falling away. Independence was declared on 1,000 worlds. The Empire's 3,000-year reign was finished. In the aftermath of the battle, as Alliance, ships secured the Nexus Gate. Fleet Admiral Quan stood beside Admiral Park on the Tegux Bridge. The old soldier looked out at the stars with satisfaction. 20 years ago, Earth was conquered," he said quietly. "Today, Earth leads a free galaxy. Sometimes the greatest victories come from the most unexpected places." Admiral Park nodded. "The Empire ruled through fear and oppression. We've built something based on cooperation and shared technology. That's why we won."